What if I told you there were 3 super quick changes you can make right now that would have a massive impact on your songs? Well, in this video, I'm going to be showing you 3 game-changing mixing tips that you can use today, how they're going to transform your music, and one thing that you should absolutely stop doing in your songs. But first, do any of these tips have to do with paid plugins, and do you even need paid plugins to follow this video? No, you don't. So open up Logic Pro on a current song you're working on and follow along with me throughout this video. Seriously, go open up a Logic Pro song. So what's one thing in music that everyone from a 2-year-old to a grandparent can notice instantly? It's volume. This is the most important tool that you have in your mixing toolbox, and it's the first thing you actually need to get right. This tip is often referred to as like a static mix, but if you're signed up to my newsletter, which I share exclusive tips, you know that I just like to call it a volume mix. When I think of a static mix, I just think of that guy from the scientist from Back to the Future.
This is it.
Good movie though. So how do you do a volume mix in your song? The thing I love about the volume mix is it's going to uncover how good the raw ingredients of your song are, or not. So open up your most recent Logic Pro project and get started and follow along with me. Step 1, turn off all the plugins. You can do this by going to the mixer, clicking on one track, hold shift, and then highlight your entire mixer. Then click and drag down on your plugins in one track. Step 2, bring all your volumes to the lowest option, like negative infinity. Step 3, build up your mix from the most important element of your choice. I like to start building up my mix around the drums, but you might like to do it around the vocal or bass. Just don't overthink this too much. Step 4, start to mix other elements in, only using volume until you've gotten through all your tracks. So do this to your mix too, and then let's meet back in about 5 seconds. But for this volume mix, I went a step ahead and actually mixed with my MIDI controller. You don't need to do this, but it's just something I wanted to put in the video because it's kind of a way of like recreating an SSL console. This way I can cover my monitor completely and only mix with my ears and the tactical feel I have of the MIDI controller. Essentially, I'm programming the MIDI controller faders to the Logic Pro volume digital faders. This is what mine sounds like.
It's you. La la la, looking up at the endless blue. La la la, la la la, oh, lying right next to you.
Pretty good, right? And that's just volume. Now, the next Genius Tips brings together not only volume, but actually every single thing in the mix. Yes, everything. Getting a grasp with this tip is going to help train your ears so you can start hearing different frequency ranges. I want to teach you how to be like Chris Farley in Beverly Hills Ninja, but with frequency. This will also not only make you a better mixer in Logic Pro, but a better producer as well, which is super important. So step 1, find a song that is similar to yours, or if you don't know, ask yourself, what song would you like your song to sound like? Step 2, drag the song into Logic Pro and add it as an audio track. Step 3, add an EQ track with 2 bands. This means I can isolate frequency ranges so I can dial in on certain sounds, like the bass range. Step 4, if we dial in on the bass range, listen with detail, and you're going to start to hear exactly what is happening in certain frequency ranges. I do find this most valuable though for the bass range because moving up the frequency range, it's harder to identify instruments, but with bass especially, you're really going to be able to understand what the kick and bass are doing because you can identify and isolate those sounds. If you don't want to do this kind of EQ hack, you can also use stem splitter tools. There's one called Lala.ai, and basically that uses AI to upload a WAV file and it splits the file into different stems using using AI algorithm. So let's take an example. Let's say I'm mixing this song and I'm not sure how loud the lead vocal should be, for example. Well, let's look at what the reference is doing. Maybe I don't even need to add the EQ, or out of interest, I could see how much low end is in the vocal by just identifying the bass range. Getting good at this will train your ears and you'll start to recognize problems or areas of opportunity in your mix. So once you've done these first 2 tips, you're ready for the 3rd tip, which is going to bring everything together and hug your mix tighter than a bear clinging to a honeypot. My daughter loves that book. Have you ever listened to one of your favorite songs and thought, man, how do they get it sounding so tight, so good, so polished? So without going into like the hundreds of reasons why, I'm going to tell you one of the biggest reasons, and this has to do with something I like to call the staple system. So imagine all your tracks in Logic Pro were different pieces of paper. You have your guitar piece of paper. You have your bass piece of paper. You have your drums, keys, synth, vocals. So if these are all just separate tracks, what's holding them all together? There's no glue. There's no bear hug. What we need here is a compressor to glue things together. And this is exactly what all the professional mixing engineers will do. So let's look at an example by adding a compressor to glue the track together, and I'll show you the settings I use too. You can also experiment by adding some other type of plugins to the stereo channel, like an EQ, a limiter, or maybe some tape saturation. Fortunately though, your mix in Logic Pro is going to fall apart unless you've properly mixed your reverb. That's why you need to watch this video right here, and I will uncover 7 easy reverb tricks that all Logic Pro beginners make. Actually, most of these mistakes you're probably doing without even knowing.